Hello, everyone. I'm Cal Gould here with another interview in my series of history of ball hockey. With us today is a gentleman that's from the city of Edmonton and played quite a few years back. We're going to hear his story now. So let me ask first off, what is your name and where are you from?
My name is Brian Brattland. I'm from Edmonton, Alberta.
What are some of your early memories of just playing street hockey or unorganized ball hockey?
Yeah, sure. Well, grabbing the net thrown in on the top of the car, heading down to parking lot someplace. Some of the fellas from junior high school, we'd show up, run around with a tennis ball, was the choice at the time. And kind of idle away 2-3 hours. I remember one fellow of mine had a part-time job at Safeway, so we showed up at the Safeway parking lot over in Petrolia, and me, him, and another buddy were one net, play, and at a certain point we were getting thirsty, so we had the keys to Safeway and went in and got some beverages and came back out. So yeah, that was handy. It's always nice to have friends in high places. But yeah, unorganized, just phone around, get some buddies, head out to a parking lot someplace that was big enough to handle whatever kind of crowd was going to show.
What other organized sports did you play prior to playing organized ball hockey?
Yeah, I was a baseball player, did Little League up to the senior years. So in Edmonton, we have Little League, and then that goes to 16, and so 17 and 18-year-olds, it was called the big leagues back then. And so that's as far as that got. But that was good. Had a few notables. Played baseball with Ken Danico. He went on to be an NHL hockey player. And we did the provincials a few times, but baseball predominantly, soccer in high school.
How did you join the Ball Hockey League when you first played, that you first played in? By that, what I mean is, did you get invited by friends? Did you answer a newspaper ad? Or did you just sign up by yourself?
Yeah, I think it was a newspaper ad. They had ball hockey tryouts of some sort down at Caboto Park in Little Italy. Showed up at a rec center there, and I think it was Henry. Forget his name, Henry, though. He was a standout. He's a fella you might want to interview. He was quite involved with that, and he organized that get-together. It was a Saturday morning, and I don't know, there was about 20 of us that showed up, and him, I'm assuming, divided us into two teams, and we just kind of went at it. And after that, I was given a fella's name, Mohan Thinn's name. And that was that. So I'm not too sure how he parceled this out or who parceled this out to different teams, but I was the only one from that crew that ended up going to the Blitz. I gave Mohan a call, and then they had a gym over in Millwood someplace.
As far as that team, the Blitz goes, what league was that you joined with Mohan?
Yeah, that was the Capital City. Capital City. Actually, I should step back. I did try out through my older brother, knew the Tessiers, and they played for the Arrows in the Edmonton Ball Hockey League. And I went running around with them one summer I'm not too sure if it was a tryout, but the bastards never called me back. So yeah, so then I went through Henry over to Mohan, and the Blitz were and I'm not too sure if they were called the Blitz that year, because they had already been in the league for 1 year. So 82, I believe that was. And so in 83, I think is when I joined, and then that's when the team was named the Blitz. Yeah, and the Capital City Ball Hockey League.
How old were you when you played in your first season, and were the players of a similar age to you?
They were definitely a similar age. A few older fellas by a couple of years, but predominantly the same age. And so that would have been 21. So yeah, and that was the first organized hockey I'd ever played.
You mentioned that you were on the Blitz team. Do you remember how long you were on that team, and what other teams did you join afterwards?
I really don't know. I couldn't give you an end date. I'm sorry. I don't have a year for that. I know we played into the 90s. Could have been up to 95-ish. Yeah, I'm really sorry. I don't have a date when that all came to an end. And then I know Kenny fell on that team, and we played on another team, which I don't have the name for. It wasn't long, and it was just for a few games. And then after that, I didn't play for any other teams. While playing for the Blitz, there was always the request to join a team going to the provincials, or there were tournament games, tournaments that were being held, and you would join a team. So I know I played for the Emperors 1 year. The Emperors we won that tournament. The Chiefs in the provincials, I played for them. And I think that's about it, yeah.
In comparison to other organized sports that you played, what was your impression of the ball hockey organizations that you were involved with?
Well, I was quite amazed, actually, because as I had said, we were running around in the parking lot, and here was this organization that had rinks, refs, other teams, playing against other people. That was always kind of a key thing, because after a while, it's always just the same old fellas that show up. And, sure, it's fun and stuff, but it's always nice to go up against another team. So I was quite amazed that there was this thing that existed, because, until then it was just a free-for-all in the parking lot. And there were referees, seemed relatively organized. There was a schedule, playoffs, they handed out hardware. They were quite keen to see it as a worthy entity, so that it would attract other players and teams and make you want to come back again for the next season. So I was quite impressed.
Were you involved in the sport in any other way, such as a referee, coach, manager, executive, anything in any other capacity?
Later on, I know, while we were waiting on my nephew, Chet Sorensen, the junior league had begun in mid-'80s, and so I was semi-involved with the team that he played on, and that was about it. And then years later, one of my sons wanted to get into ball hockey, so I assisted the coach with that, 2000, and I don't know what that would have been, 5, 8, somewhere in there. So that was interesting, watching the young guys picking up the torch and running with it.
There are multiple levels of play in the leagues. When you first started, there was only one level of play, and then in 1987, they divided into Tier 1 and Tier 2. What was the highest level that you played at? Did you always play at the same level, or did you play at multiple levels?
Because inevitably the Blitz went from the Canadian or the capital city over to the Edmonton Ball Hockey League. But with the capital city, so when we started first division, and then I think potentially, like you said, when it split like that, I think we went into the Tier 2. Got out of the competitive nature of it, and then just kind of rolled with that until we went over to the Edmonton Ball Hockey. And at that time, there were very few teams in the Edmonton Ball Hockey. The Playboys, the Nordiques, and I think one other. There wasn't very many teams in the Edmonton Ball Hockey League. So when we joined that, kind of rounded it out somewhat. But I'm not too sure what we were thinking. Right into that was those two teams, the Nordique and the Playboys. I mean, wow, it was. Anyway, we held our own for the most part, but those two teams just continually had, top-notch players, start to finish. So that was a tough league. I don't know. We thought maybe it would be easier. I don't think so, but I'm not too sure why we made that jump. But we did.
In your early years on the Blitz, you were a leading scorer. And what I'd like to know now is what kind of uh, success did you have, not only as an individual, but as a team? Did you manage to play in any provincials or national tournaments? And were you invited? I think you mentioned it already. You were invited to play with other teams in provincials.
Yeah, so sure. MVP won the scoring title a few times, but as a team, we could never ever win that last game, it seemed. So as a team, we never ever did win a championship. Went to the provincials and lost. We got the silver in 1990, I believe. So yeah, kind of a disappointment as a team. We had good seasons for the most part. Always made the playoffs for the most part. Yeah, but just could never ever win that last game. And then I know with our team when they called for the All-Star game, it was never ever. It was just by straw vote. So I never actually played in any All-Star game. I might have played in one. I won the straw that year or something. There weren't, and I think after a while they stopped with the All-Star game. I'm not too sure of the history of that, but it was there. It was prevalent for a while and then maybe phased out. And then when the playoffs were over, I was kind of done. So I very rarely said yes to any invitations to go and play in the provincials. There was just two occasions when I went.
Do you have any favorite memories of playing ball hockey?
Yeah, that's a tough one for favorite memories. It's hard, Cal, as you had made mention previously, trying to shake the cobwebs of these and remember that time. I know the locker room, I think with any team is kind of where the memories really are, and on the bench. That's what kind of makes a team sport, worth it. Success on and off. But when you get together and you're all in the room, those are always fond memories I have. I do recall 1 year a friend of ours on the team knew Dave Chizowski, and he was a first round pick with the Blackhawks, I believe. So he somehow convinced him to come out. And he had never played, I think, ball hockey before, and so was rather amazed of the endurance that a player needed to see a game through, just because there wasn't the luxury of coasting on your skate blades. You kind of had to run all the time. So not so much of a fond memory, but kind of put it in perspective as to where ball hockey was as a sport. It's a harder game to play because of all the running. I'm not too sure if I answered your question.
You already mentioned this earlier, but what family members did you have involved in the sport of ball hockey?
I had made mention my nephew Chet. We're waiting on him, and so in 1988, I believe he came along, and still is playing to this very day. And then his brother, when he came of age, he joined our team. So that was two nephews that played on that team. And then later on, 2008, in the 2000s, there was a winter league someplace that Chet was on, and one of my other nephews, Mike Brattland, was on that team. So they kind of coaxed me out to come and play for that team. And so I think I did 10 games that year. So that was kind of fun. Still kind of had it, but was nowhere near where I was as a 20-year-old anyway. So, but yeah, no. So family members, and that was kind of key. That kind of kept me in the game, primarily because of Chet, but also the love of the game. I did like ball hockey. It was fun.
In your opinion, what do you think has made the greatest impact on the growth of the sport?
Well, definitely exposing it to the juniors, so the younger kids. Women's league, of course. That was a big deal. I know when we went to the provincials in Medicine Hat in 1990, the women's team the women's game was well represented there from all over the province. I'm not too sure. At the time, I wasn't a big fan of going out of the arenas and into the multi-arena soccer, indoor soccer. That I recognize the value of it now and after. That it was, you got 4 rinks, 1 spot. It was ideal. But I did like the allure of the old arenas, showing up at Santa Rosa, things like that. But I think also the ease then of scheduling, because you could put 4 rinks under 1 roof. That probably really helped. And I think Edmonton had 3, maybe even more by now. I'm not too sure. So there was a lot more space available. So that helped.
What advice would you give to someone that wants to play the sport of ball hockey?
Well, advice is go out there and just play the game for the sheer enjoyment. I suppose a lot of kids may be involved in organized ice hockey, and they'll find the structure different. I mean, ideally, at the end of the day, it's the same sport. But I think ball hockey is a little more freewheeling. The aspect of having to be a good skater isn't as necessary, of course, because you're running. So that probably would be more of an invitation for any kid really to play the game, because skating obviously is not required. So I think that's one of the key reasons why it attracts more and it's less expensive. So yeah, my advice is to give it a try, and you'll probably see that they'll be coming back for the next year and the years thereafter.
Is there someone that you would want to thank personally, if they were here right now, for getting you involved in the sport of ball hockey?
Well, sure. I reckon it would be Henry, and I apologize. I'm not too sure Henry's last name. Yes, that's him. Yeah. Quite instrumental, and it wasn't just from that first day thereafter, because I did not know him prior, but as the season began, I saw that he was kind of instrumental. He was in and around. I know he even interviewed me. We had an access channel here in Edmonton back in the day, and so some of our games were actually televised, and he had something to do with that as well. I know he was also organized in the structure, the executive of the league. Steve Pozovic, also a huge contributor to the success of the league. I always thank Steve whenever we ran up to him during the season. We would play him inevitably, and I always made sure to pat him on the back, say what a good job he was doing. And then Mohan Thind, he was kind of the organizer of my team, him and Kenny Koropeski. So those guys kind of had to organize it. I'm not too sure if you ever fell into the organizing part on your team. It's kind of a thankless job. Nobody really wanted to do that job, but so thank you for your teammates, and I want to thank those fellas.
So let's talk now about where the sport of ball hockey is right now. As you may or may not know, it has expanded not only throughout Canada at a very high level, but it has gone worldwide, and there have been world championships going on since 1996, and that's at multiple levels: men's, women's, in various categories, A, B, C, D, etc. So knowing that the sport has grown so dramatically over the last number of years, what would you hope to see for the future of the sport?
Well, I suppose just to maintain its accessibility, because it was predominantly a very easy sport to get into. Running shoes, stick, glove, and a helmet. There wasn't too much required. I remember when we first started, it was long sweats, knee pads, elbow pads for some guys, but gloves, helmet. And a couple of years later, we're coming up against these kids that are now in our league, and they got shorts, no socks, no shin pads. and every one of them could play. Oh my goodness. So yeah, it would be nice if these the progression of the sport could just kind of maintain its ease of entry for the first time. You don't need to scare off these kids, and to keep it relatively inexpensive. Short seasons, I suppose. Well, seasonal, which is nice, as most sports are. So they're not living and breathing 24/7 and 12 months a year, being harassed by the parents. It's really nice to have that kind of an outlet. And if they want to succeed, they can move up however they want. But as a team, it would be really nice if they can go in as a bunch of friends and play with that core group, because that's key as well. Yeah, just keep the same guys together. That's fun.
Is there anything you'd like to add other than the questions I've asked?
It's always kind of amazed me how individuals like yourself or those when I was playing took it to another level. Cared that much outside of the actual game. Saw a bigger picture. So I'd like to thank you, for picking that up. And because as a player, you're showing up at game time and you're leaving, not realizing what it took to turn those lights on, and have the floor ready and have a ref going. I really want to thank all of those who, the coaches especially. So keep up the good work, Cal. This sounds really interesting.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your time, Brian. It's been an honor to talk to you, in fact.
Oh, well, thank you, Cal.